How did a mix of people and ideas shape the early days of America? From 1607 to 1754, many individuals and events came together to lay the foundations of American culture. John Smith, an English explorer, helped establish Jamestown in 1607. He met Pocahontas, a Native American kid who bridged her people and the settlers, much like two rivers merging into one. Their cooperation set the stage for future interactions between different cultures. Smith's negotiations with Chief Powhatan, Pocahontas' father, were crucial in securing food and support for the struggling colony during its early years, and Pocahontas' later marriage to John Rolfe. Building upon the establishment of Jamestown, other groups sought new beginnings in America. For example, in 1620, the Pilgrims established Plymouth Colony in search of religious freedom. They signed the Mayflower Compact as a form of self-governance, creating a basic legal system that asserted the government's power derives from the consent of the governed, an idea that would echo in later American political thought. As the colonies expanded, new challenges and ideas emerged. In the Massachusetts Bay Colony, Roger Williams and Anne Hutchinson questioned strict religious rules, planting new ideas like seeds and fertile soil. Williams advocated for the separation of church and state and fair dealings with Native Americans. He founded Rhode Island, a haven for religious freedom, creating a society with pluralism where diverse beliefs coexisted. Similarly, Anne Hutchinson held meetings in her home, discussing religious matters and challenging the authority of local ministers, leading to her trial and banishment. Meanwhile, in Pennsylvania, William Penn welcomed Quakers, promoting tolerance and adding to the mosaic of religious diversity by establishing Pennsylvania as a holy experiment with freedom of worship and good relations with Native Americans. This growing diversity in religious beliefs led to the spread of Protestant evangelicalism. The First Great Awakening ignited a wave of religious enthusiasm across the colonies. Preachers like Jonathan Edwards delivered powerful sermons, such as Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God, stirring deep religious feelings and lighting fires in people's hearts. This movement challenged the established religious order, encouraging individuals to seek a personal connection with God and question traditional authority. At the same time, secular ideas were also spreading throughout the colonies. In Philadelphia, Benjamin Franklin used his printing press to disseminate Enlightenment ideas, fueling the transatlantic print culture. He published works like Poor Richard's Almanac, sharing wisdom and practical advice. Franklin also founded libraries and debating clubs, fostering an environment where ideas about science, politics, and philosophy could be shared. As a result, colonists read about liberty and began to think about self-rule. The wealthy saw opportunities to profit by leading these movements, like captains steering ships towards prosperous shores. Moreover, the spread of ideas was facilitated by key port cities. In the colonies, ports like Boston, New York, and Charleston became centers of trade. While ideas spread, so did commerce. Trade between colonies thrived, creating intercolonial commercial ties. Ships carried goods like timber, tobacco, and furs along the coast, weaving the colonies together like threads in a fabric. Merchants in these ports established networks that not only facilitated economic growth, but also the exchange of ideas and news, further uniting the colonies. With trade flourishing and settlements growing, colonists began expanding westward, leading to conflicts with Native Americans. For example, King Philip's War devastated New England, causing heavy losses on both sides. Metacom, known as King Philip, led the Wampanoag and other tribes in an effort to resist colonial encroachment on their lands. These conflicts underscored the colonists' need for frontier defense to protect their territories. These challenges increased tensions with Britain over land and trade restrictions, as colonists sought more autonomy to handle local matters. As these challenges mounted, colonists began feeling confined, like birds in a cage, leading them to resist imperial control. They developed an ideology critical of perceived corruption in the imperial system. For instance, they objected to laws like the Navigation Acts, which restricted trade, and policies that imposed taxes without their consent. They felt British officials prioritized the empire's interests over those of the colonies, leading to resentment and a desire for change. The process of Anglicization made them adopt English customs, but also heightened their awareness of their own identity. They dressed in English fashions and followed English legal practices, but their experiences in America gave them different perspectives, leading to a unique colonial identity. While tensions with Britain increased, economic factors also played a significant role in shaping colonial society. In the southern colonies, such as Virginia and the Carolinas, large plantations depended on the labor of enslaved Africans to grow tobacco and rice. Amid these developments, many colonies relied on enslaved Africans as their economic backbone. The transatlantic slave trade brought countless people to America against their will. Olaudah Equiano, an African man who was enslaved and later freed, wrote about his experiences, reflecting harsh truths like a mirror. Slavery became deeply embedded in colonial economies, especially in the South. Plantations grew cash crops like tobacco, rice, and indigo, crops that were like gold mines, enriching plantation owners while enslaved people toiled under brutal conditions. Slave codes were enacted to control the enslaved population, stripping them of basic rights and legal protections. Despite these harsh realities, enslaved Africans brought musical traditions, such as call and response singing, which influenced American music. These circumstances led to unexpected cultural exchanges. African traditions, music, and storytelling blended with European and Native American customs, creating new cultural forms like spirituals and folklore, much like streams converging into a river. Instruments like the banjo, derived from African designs, became part of American musical traditions. Geographical factors also influence the development of distinct regional identities. The southern colonies' warm climate and fertile soil made them ideal for agriculture. The fertile lands of the South favored large-scale farming, while the North's rocky terrain led to commerce and industry. In New England, for example, the economy centered on shipbuilding, fishing, and trade due to its harbors and abundant forests. These differences shaped distinct regional identities and economies. In Massachusetts, the Puritans enforced strict religious conformity, leading to tensions within their communities. Religious conflicts also marked this period. Events like the Salem witch trials in 1692 revealed deep divisions and fears. Over 200 people were accused of witchcraft, and 20 were executed. Fear and suspicion spread like wildfire, leading to tragic consequences. These events underscored the need for fair legal systems and highlighted the complexities of colonial society. As the colonies evolved, colonial charters and legal systems developed further. In 1619, the Virginia House of Burgesses was established as the first representative assembly in the colonies. Documents like the Mayflower Compact and the creation of colonial assemblies established early forms of self-governance, setting foundations for democratic principles. Colonists handled crimes and disputes locally, fostering a sense of autonomy. In New England, town meetings allowed male landowners to vote on local issues, a practice that encouraged political participation and gave colonists direct experience with self-rule. However, class differences were stark. For example, wealthy planters in the South lived in grand estates, while indentured servants worked long hours for little reward. Wealthy landowners and merchants held power, while indentured servants and enslaved people had little to no rights. Society was like a ladder, with many striving to climb, but few reaching the top. Indentured servants, after completing their contracts, often found it difficult to acquire land, leading to frustration and social tension. These class tensions sometimes led to open conflict. In Maryland, tensions between Protestant settlers and the Catholic elite led to the Maryland Protestant Revolution in 1689. Events like Bacon's Rebellion in 1676 highlighted the friction between the wealthy elite and poorer settlers. Frustrated with Governor Berkeley's policies on frontier defense and lack of support against Native American attacks, Nathaniel Bacon led an uprising, like a storm revealing cracks in a foundation. The rebellion was eventually suppressed, but it exposed deep divisions in colonial society. Similarly, the Zenger trial in 1735 became a landmark for freedom of the press. John Peter Zenger was acquitted for criticizing the governor, a victory that paved the way for future liberties by establishing the principle that truth is a defense against charges of libel. Drawing from these experiences, colonists increasingly valued self-governance. The practice of town meetings in New England allowed colonists to make decisions collectively. Resistance to imperial control drew on these local experiences. Town meetings and local councils gave colonists a taste of self-rule. They handled crimes and disputes themselves without relying on distant authorities. The colonies' growing independence and diversity fostered a unique identity. Intercolonial trade tied the colonies economically, like a web connecting different points. The shared experience of self-governance and economic interdependence helped build a sense of unity among the colonies. Additional tensions with Britain arose, increasing the desire for autonomy. The imposition of the Navigation Acts limited colonial trade to English ships, causing resentment among merchants. These acts restricted trade, forcing merchants and traders to pay higher prices and accept lower profits. The wealthy often led the push for autonomy, seeing opportunities to expand their influence and profits. Smuggling became common as colonists sought to circumvent these restrictions. In the end, here's the surprise. All these diverse elements, the mix of people, ideas, conflicts, collaborations, and even injustices, unintentionally united the colonies towards independence. What began as separate ventures merged into a collective desire for a nation built on freedom and self-determination. The blending of cultures, the struggles against oppression, and the shared experiences across different regions and classes forged a new identity. The colonies, once a patchwork of different groups, became a united front seeking to chart their own course. So the unexpected result is that this blend of different peoples and ideas, along with the challenges they faced, didn't just shape early American culture. It set the stage for the colonies to forge their own path. This journey led to the birth of a new nation, something few could have predicted from the start.